Cut the dang music. What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. God, that was loud. Listen, this week I have not done content for a very good reason, and I want to show you guys real quick. Something I'm working on that I think will bridge the gap between some of the products that exist now, as well as coaching, the gap in between some of the courses that are on the website now at livecortex.com, the Cream course, the Sipionate course, and of course coaching. You know, there's not really an in-between. And what I am working on, which I'll show you in a second, is the sexual function playbook for men on TRT. Okay, so let me just give you a quick overview of this before we get into the live stream and get folks in here to ask some questions. This is titled Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, the Sexual Function Playbook for Men that are on testosterone replacement therapy. This is going to be the most complex, in-depth product I have ever created. It is going to synthesize everything that I have learned in coaching men on fixing sexual dysfunction on TRT. It will include a degree of what I've learned regarding fixing sexual function from other causes like hair loss strokes, right? Because it's all very intertwined. And it has got an entire protocol lab with every ester, every adjustment, decision trees, full decision trees, okay? Full on decision trees with each ester so that you could just look at a decision tree and know what to do to dial in. I'm telling you guys, this is the best product I've ever created, and it is going to be fucking awesome. I'll give you just a glimpse into the protocol lab. So this is part of the protocol lab. You'll have protocols, descriptions, and adjustment notes into the protocol lab. So mastering libido and erections on TRT is for every ester. It's everything combined. This will launch sometime in the next week and a half or so. I'm in the midst of completing the protocol lab section of it. So that is going to certainly take some time for me to vomit all of the information that I have learned onto what ultimately is a digital playbook for men on TRT. So please look forward to that. In the meantime, you can still book coaching. These newer coaching packages have really been good for us. You know, we ended up reducing the price on everything and making a new single session consult. That's the first one there, the Sexual Function Protocol Blueprint, where you get a 30-minute call with me. I will draft 3 to 5 action routes for you, put it on an online document with a TRT protocol tracker to fix sexual dysfunction. And then, of course, there's the rest of the coaching programs, which you can examine and book in under a minute at livecortex.com. All right. So let's have a discussion, if you guys would, about hybrids. Let me just straighten my stream software out for a sec here, and then we will get to discussing some things. All right, so first of all, I have seen repeatedly that people will have somewhat steady state, testosterone and estradiol. They will have a protocol that gets them in the zone of estradiol. For the most part, it might not be their sweet spot within the 20 to 35 picograms per milliliter zone, because everybody has a sweet spot there within that zone. Can't just hit that window and expect to have perfect sexual function. You might need to be at between 25 and 30 estradiol. Again, rarely you got guys that need to be at about 35 or so. You have these people that are need to be at like 15 to 18 in estradiol, and they don't have joint pain, they don't have like depression, they don't have sexual dysfunction, like everything just works really well there. So, finding your zone is the trick once you hit that 20 to 35 picograms per milliliter range. The interesting thing about hybrid protocols is that it offers an opportunity, say you have a stable baseline of cream, to add a little bit of Sipionate or Ananthate or prop on top of that. And then you just oscillate like within the zone. You just go to 27, 28, 29, 30 estradiol. That's just where you need to be. You got fucking rockin' libido for 5 of the 7 days of the week. Your erections are good 7 out of 7 days. You wake up with erections or have them in the middle of the night, 5 to 7 days a week, and you're just fucking awesome. Now, unfortunately, like you would just think, okay, well, all I need to do is hit those number zones. It doesn't always work that way, because you could clock a person at 28 estradiol, 60 DHT, and in the context of just a steady state TRT protocol, they really don't have that great libido. You know, it's like I described when, you know, you're drinking coffee for 6 months straight and then you stop drinking coffee. Then you reintroduce like a strong espresso a week later, you fucking really notice it. You know, the CNS regarding androgens kind of needs not to be homeostatic all the time. You know, you need to kind of go up and down and have things kind of modulate a little bit, but still within the friendly zone. And then you get great sexual function. Honestly, the best protocols I've been on were 70 milligrams of cypionate every 4th day was fucking phenomenal for sexual function. There were a few others, but now I'm on 5 pumps of cream and 40 milligrams of 5 pumps of cream every day, 166 IU HCG every day, and 40 milligrams of cypionate every 7 days. And it's fucking one of the best that I've been on. You know, libido 5 to 7 days out of the week, that is fucking crazy. Erections are great the whole time. Nocturnals 5 to 7 days of the week. Morning erections, same thing. Sensations fucking incredible throughout. So, you know, again, I want to just bring to people the idea of hybrid. Stable base, small peak and trough. Getting in the zone within the zone regarding estradiol and keeping DHT high should be paramount. Let's quickly talk about this other thing. This is a phenomenon I have seen in coaching, and it is a little bit difficult for me to explain, and it doesn't really align with how natties function. But sometimes when you're right around your zone in E2, okay, call it like you're at 28 picograms per milliliter, your libido is insatiable. You're just horny and wanting to engage. Erections for penetrative sex are perfect, but you don't have nocturnals. Okay. This is okay. And it does happen. But then, you know, maybe calcium D-glucarate induced or zinc induced, or, you know, maybe, I don't know, you skip a day of your dose, or you're running a hybrid and you're about to trough essentially. Then the E2 goes a little lower. The insatiable libido goes a little lower. Then you've got nocturnal. So you have these two different states. You have a state in which you don't really have nocturnal erections much. You have them, but they're not crazy and they're not every day. But every other thing about sexual function is amazing. Libido is great. Sensation's great. Everything's amazing. Erections for sex are perfect. But then you go down in estradiol a little bit and you actually lose a little bit of that edge of the libido. And you're like, yeah, take it or leave it. I can be turned on, but take it or leave it kind of thing. But you're having ragers all night. I have seen this before, and I mean, the numbers in these cases clearly show that estradiol drops a little bit. That's it. That's all that really changes. And you're more DHT dominant. When you're excessively DHT dominant, you lose a little libido, but the erections are stellar. When it's in balance, the erections are great for penetrative sex. You should still have morning wood, nocturnal wood, but you might not have it all the time. But your libido is fucking amazing. And sensation and climax are fucking incredible. Just something to think about. It's an observation that I've seen that I wanted to run by you guys. And let you know, when you're trying to dial in, it's like sometimes insatiable libido, erections for sex, nocturnals sometimes, but not all the time, and crazy climaxes are dialed in. Because in some cases, if the E2 drops a little too low and you're DHT dominant, you're going to have ragers, but the sensation and the libido will be a little less. So you kind of got to pick and choose. I tend to be like being kind of in the middle where my libido doesn't make me want to masturbate during the fucking workday. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I like that feeling. So I'm generally more DHT dominant with libido high, but not absolutely fucking driving me crazy, but ragers all the time. That's kind of where I like to be. Good morning, brother. Dream Chaser. It's not that testosterone suppresses GH directly. So growth hormone we're talking about now. It often increases IGF-1, I think via estrogen, but that persistent CNS stimulation can interfere with the sleep phase that permits GH pulsality. That's why prop helped. Interesting. I don't see the previous question there, but some food for thought for us, I guess. Levi added 25 milligrams Proviron. Love that shit. Love that shit. Hair nuker for me, but for the month and a half that I run it, I don't lose my hair. It starts to nuke it. Test prop every day and got raging boners. Fix my PFS, but hair is brittle and falling off everywhere. Okay, so let's just step back and look at this for a sec. Yeah, I mean, if you have PFS, that means that you had taken a hair loss drugs in your history, which means that you're susceptible to, hair loss. So if the DHT is up like this, it's going to happen. At the same time, I mean, Proviron induces hair shedding and hair thinning and stuff for me personally. So, that this is not entirely uncommon to happen. I know it sucks shit that happens, but, whatever. I would say that most folks, if your genes are okay, you can dial in pretty greatly without having, hair loss. Again, I had to switch my protocol from 5 pumps strictly on the scrotum to 3 on the forearm, 2 on the scrotum because the hair was thinning. But now it's so thickened back. And it took about a month to recover, and my sexual function's still fucking awesome. But in this case, I mean, you're a person that, presumably had pretty bad sexual dysfunction from taking a hair loss drug. So this is the right move. This is the right move, man. Get a crew cut, get a beard, work out, use that extra anabolism from the test and the leanness that Proviron induces via reducing all the subcutaneous water under the tissue, and just be a fucking gangster with a working dick and a great libido. This is amazing. And I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. Sometimes it is that easy. PFS often isn't easy. PSSD, same thing. But sometimes it can be as simple as finding a very simple protocol that fucking works. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Congratulations. Just take some tacotrenols and do some derma rolling to try to save your hair. Otherwise, crew cut it up and accept your fate, dude. Rather have a working dick and great libido and be a masculine male than, be fucking jacked with hair and ED. That's just kind of them's the breaks, brothers. Andor, hey Ryan, please help. I don't understand when you refer to 1 pump of testosterone cream. What exactly does that mean? With 10% testosterone cream, 1 click equals 0.25 mil, and 0.25 mil, 10% cream is 25 milligrams. Exactly. So you do understand what it means. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with 5 pumps on the 100 milligram cream, you're getting 125 milligrams a day, I want to say. Wow. Yeah, that's exactly it. If it's 0.25 milliliters at 100 milligram cream at 10%, each click is going to be 25 milligrams of testosterone. Yeah. But, some people look at that and get a little discouraged, like, holy shit, that's a lot of testosterone. 125 milligrams a day? Yeah, well, it absorbs quickly, it peaks quickly, then it starts to trough, so it ends up working out really well. Joe Harper with the big $20 super chat. Thanks, brother. Test prop, 20 milligrams a day, total T 920, E2 44, DHT 48. Am I changing into cream 10%? How many clicks to start with, an entire trait to what? Lever show. Well, I mean, first of all, you could dial this prop dose in. If I were you, first of all, when is this tested? This is probably on peak, I would imagine, or is it on trough? If it's on peak, the numbers are going substantially higher, and then they're dropping back down. So if that's the peak, I would move to like 16 milligrams a day, and you'll probably get in the sweet spot regarding sexual function. If that is the trough, you probably have to move down like 12 milligrams a day. Yeah, it's a good idea to see where you are on fast-acting esters on peak and trough so that you understand like which window you're in. What is the oscillation of estradiol? Do you trough at 27 and peak at 45? Usually not that great. Do you peak at 35 and trough at 20? That's better, much better. That's kind of where you want to be with fast-acting shit if you can manage it. So I bet you could fix that. Based on how you're responding to prop, I think you'd be a good candidate for cream. And, I would start at the template that I have defined works, which is 4 to 5 clicks of 100 milligram cream. It's 25 milligrams per click. I would start that on the scrotum. I'd have a base level of HCG at 100 IU a day, and I would run 20 milligrams of DHEA every day. Everybody should run that, in my opinion. And then you look at estradiol, total T and DHT at peak, which would be 6 to 8 hours later, and then you look at it again at trough, which is the next day before application. And you want to get yourself to hover within range of estradiol. If at the peak it goes to 35, that should be fine, but then it kind of drops back down, and you just hover around that 28, 27, 25, 30, 35 estradiol sweet spot with presumably enough DHT. because you're putting cream on the scrotum where there's a bunch of 5-AR enzymes converting test to DHT. That's what it does there, and it's amazing. So that's what I would suggest you do, bro. And then you just dial the cream dose accordingly. You can't really change the HCG dose. I would stick with 100 IU, 150 IU a day, and kind of just see how you fare and where you go. But in the end, it's like if on peak and trough your estrogen is still elevated, you're gonna have to go down to 4 pumps if you started with 5. If you are substantially over range in estradiol on peak and trough, like 55, and then you trough at 42, then you go down. Some people are hyper responders to cream and they can get away with like 3 pumps. I'd be not hypogonadal, but I'd feel like shit on 3 pumps. So I need at least 5, and some HCG every day, and then an infusion of cypionate at 40 milligrams every 7 days. I just did my injection today, this morning when I woke up, after applying some cream, and it's fucking amazing. Yeah, I'll be a little more anabolic for the next 6-7 days, and it's gonna be awesome. If I want pure DHT, can you get that in liquid, or does it have to be gel? No, you can get injectable DHT. Yeah, injectable DHT is on the source list as well. But I mean, predominantly the gel is what I would ultimately suggest you use, because you're applying it right to the scrotum where it's going to absorb super substantially. Yeah. Jill Harper, I also take 150 HCG and 50 zinc, 25 DHA. I want multiple rounds back and back orgasm. Wait, I want multiple rounds back to back and ease of orgasm to increase. It's like my brain dick connection is broke. When I swing in the right E2 range, it's there. Of course it is. Let me look back at your super chat here. Yeah, so what you're saying is that, you take the HCG, and the 50 is zinc. Okay, so here's what I would say to you. That zinc is not doing much for you. And zinc can inhibit the aromatase enzymes in a way which, even though the blood might look like you still have enough estradiol at the tissues, you might not. So I would remove the zinc if I were you first, because it's like taking an AI in high concentrations. It actually works that way. Zinc it fucking totally can nuke your estrogen, so be careful. Zinc is the only compound of these estrogen reduction compounds that people discuss, like CDG and DIM, which is fucking useless. Zinc is the only one that acts like kind of like an aromatase inhibitor. So if I were you, I would remove that zinc and just see where you're at. I mean, the E2 is still going to be elevated, but execute those other changes first. Reducing the test prop dose to 17, 16 milligrams a day, depending on if this is at peak, your bloods are at peak, and dial in that way. Lean at 6'1", tried prop down to 12, felt low androgens at 15, felt slightly high E2. Felt? Did you measure it? Or was it a temporary fluctuation in which you didn't give it enough time to truly see? I'm not accusing you of that, but I see this every day in coaching practice, that people want to change things too quickly. They'll come on board with me. They haven't been dialed in for a year. They come on board with me and want to wait a minute, 5 days has passed and like things aren't great and I'm going to go run labs. And I got to tell them, you haven't dialed in for a year because of what you're doing right now. You're being too anxious and wanting to change shit, Not accusing you of that, but again, at 15, feeling slightly high E2, where at 20 you're at 44, it was probably not the case. Could have been a temporary fluctuation that you needed to wait out and you needed to seek the data on, i.e. get bloods at peak and trough to see where you are. Let me answer a question from my girl real quick. Them's the breaks, brothers and sisters. Any other questions? I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I don't know if you guys are into football and shit, but look, I'm an Eagles fan because I'm from the Philadelphia area. I'm from South Jersey, but I spent a lot of time in the Philly area. And yeah, I mean, they played a bad game. 49ers were a killer team, and they deserve it, honestly. And Hurts, dropped the ball a couple times, like figuratively, and then some of the receivers dropped the ball literally a few times in critical moments, and it just didn't fucking work out for us, which was devastating. I had a bad night that night, and it sucks. And then I live in Pittsburgh, so to support the Steelers here, but we've had this long ongoing saga of a terrible head coach, Mike Tomlin, and some pretty shitty OCs. And just a general bad leadership team, which induces a lower standard throughout the morale and the functional playing capacity of the players. So we end up having a relatively okay lukewarm season and losing in the playoffs every year. Finally, this city, it was time. We've been calling for the Steelers to fire their head coach, Mike Tomlin, for a long, long time. And finally he stepped down because at this point he just understands that, his course is over. He's not the best person for this team, and we need new leadership. We need some new players. We need people to draft better people, and this city really needs a good football team. So we lost pretty badly against the fucking Texans, and it was just ridiculous. But thankfully, two teams that I do like that I've been following for a while, especially the Bills last year. And watching Josh Allen at the end of it might have been the AFC Championship. Miss a pass in the end zone and lose for them, or it was one of the late playoff games. It's nice to see the Bills back because they're a fucking stellar team. And, after the stream, I'm hitting the gym, and then I'm going to my chick's house, and we are going to watch the Bills Broncos game today, and I'm fucking pumped for it. Patriots are also an incredible team. Oddly, this year, it's just so weird how that happens, right? Because the Chiefs, they go to the Super Bowl last year, they win it the year before, and then they're 6 and fucking they suck this year, just terrible. Mahomes just sucks suddenly. So it's interesting how that changes, and now the Patriots are like good again. So it's just fucking crazy. All right, thoughts on prop sub Q. So I'm gonna be watching the games today and tomorrow, and I hope you guys are excited about that. It's a fun thing for me to do. And I'm ready to go. Thoughts on prop sub Q to reduce peaks and troughs of no PI. If you can manage no post injection pain, which would be a goddamn miracle with sub Q on prop, then do it. But sub Q prop is for me personally, and most people that I discuss this with, is like the worst for post injection pain because it's just sitting in the subcutaneous tissue, and it's irritating the hell out of it, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, and that's going to suck. Yeah, you want to get that stuff in the muscle, man. But if you have no PIP, then, sure. You can try reducing a peak and trough if you want to. If your troughs and your peaks are too extreme, you're shooting up to 1,500 and then you're down to 300 or something extreme like that, then you want to be a little more steady state, but you don't want to be even all of the time. You just don't want that. Oh, man. Yesterday doing shoulders, I don't know. I heard something in my neck, so it definitely feels a little weird. Great question. Here we go. Big Bad SoCal. Why are the TRT docs now saying not to worry about E2 levels and never block it or even test it? I think there's many reasons for this. Number one, they're not entirely wrong by saying never block it. Some people, the way they're aromatizing, they're just going to kind of have to block it. And if they can get away with it and have no joint pain or side effects, they should be running 200 Disciplinate with 0.25 Arimidex the next day. And they're going to be fucking boner city and libido crazy and all that shit. Now, it's not, most people, though. So, aromatase inhibitors do come with the potential for problems via uneven distribution at tissues. You can't starve tissues of estradiol and expect to be healthy. This is just true. And aromatase inhibitors work too powerfully and too strongly and too quickly and sometimes for too long that it can be really hard to dial in. The idea to never worry about them or test it is absurd. It's absurd. This assumes, number one, first of all, it's approaching TRT from a non-granular perspective. What are you just going to go by feels? You need the fucking data. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It's like, hey, your lipids are high and therefore you're having shortness of breath, or I don't know, you got a little degree of calcification of your arteries. Just change your diet and don't look at your lipids again. Yeah, you don't need to worry about it. Now, of course, the health implications are different between high lipids and high estradiol, but high estradiol can also fucking increase your blood pressure via increasing antidiuretic hormone and making you retain a bunch of water and salt, which has negative health implications. At the same time, I don't want to name any names here because I don't want to get into trouble and I don't want to disparage anybody, but a lot of these people, including a doctor, okay, this is a doctor that has a YouTube channel that sees people. I get his patients. They come to me as clients. And they go, he told me never manage estrogen and my fucking dick hasn't worked in a year. And then we get them at 28 estradiol, 60 DHT, functional testicles, and their dick works again. I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. I think that a lot of it is ideologic. So, just like keto, we had all these phrases like fat adaptation, which is basically cellular starvation. It's a mechanism inborn to our physiology, which in the absence of carbohydrates, we're going to convert fatty acids and amino acids into carbohydrates because the cells need those, But all these sayings that came along with it, we're obligate carnivores. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Well, it's a given that it's essential. It's just not labeled that way. Your fucking cells rely on carbohydrates for ATP, for energy production. So it's just these misnomers, if you will. Misnomers wrapped in an intelligently sounding ideology. Estrogen's cardioprotective, joint protective, neuroprotective. Because you're injecting a lot of testosterone, your body's going to naturally, proportionally create more estradiol, and that's the natural flow of things. Sounds right? Except there's a serum cutoff in picograms per milliliter in the scientific fucking literature, after which you're more likely to have ED, and that's 32. Except which, if you feed rats synthetic estradiol, they grow pituitary tumors. Want to know why? Because that estradiol inhibits the arcuate nucleus of the brain from firing dopamine through the infundibulum to the pituitary. Therefore, no D2 receptor agonism takes place and prolactin runs amok. Estrogen receptor alpha in penile tissues is highly inhibitory to nitric oxide signaling. It's actually inhibitory to androgen receptor binding. So the facts about estradiol and why it should be examined, situate your protocol where it falls in range, or manage it with an AI or a DHT derivative. It's all backed up by truth. What do we give men who, for some fucking reason, have decided to transition to females? What do we give them? And what do we starve them of? We starve them of androgens, and we give them estradiol. Okay? Then they get feminized. They start to be interested in getting mounted. And, what starts attracting them then, therefore, is masculine presence, like a woman who is naturally a woman and has a higher estradiol is attracted to men and how men are, right? And us, when we're dominant on DHT but have sufficient estradiol, we're attracted to the feminine nature of women, the estrogenic nature in women. I had a conversation with a physician yesterday. He's a client of mine. So doctors hire me all the time. And this physician was telling me the information that's out there on the web. He's embarrassed that some of these guys are doctors. He's like, I've been DHT driven my whole life. My whole family, are military people and football players. We're all alpha males. And I just can't for the life of me understand why these doctors are out here suggesting that, we don't have to look at estradiol. Every time my estrogen goes over, he was saying, erection problems, libido problems, weird shit, sensation problems, climax sensation problems. Get it in range, everything works. Well, he said he's impressed by me and dumbfounded by how endocrinologists don't even know this shit. Don't talk about it with any degree of granularity. And that, there are YouTubers out there, some of whom are fucking doctors, dude. These are doctors who you're supposed to be able to trust with your health. And in the case of, consulting you on hormones, trust that they're not going to give you like ED with their instructions, but they're suggesting, not to factor in the one hormone that can give you ED when you're on exogenous test, man. Like it assumes that there is no such thing as the DHT estradiol axis and that ratios need to be in check for the system to work. It assumes there's no such thing, which also kind of assumes that in the rest of physiology, there are no, good ratio, homeostatic ratios that allow you to be healthy, but that's untrue. LDL should be in range. HDL should not be below range. Apolipoprotein B needs to not be above range, especially that latter marker. It's a fucking huge predictor of heart disease, eventual cardiac complications. Yes, we need to be in homeostatic ranges of shit in order to function well. Estrogen in excessive quantities, whether you're in a high DHT state or not, is inhibitory to sexual function for males via all the mechanisms I just explained that can clearly be sought out in the scientific journals. And that if you're working with clients or doing any degree of trying to understand the patterns of people discussing their experiences on Reddit and other forums, everybody's experience is the motherfucking same. I'll end with this, as I alluded to earlier. These doctors have patients on TRT, and they come to me as defectors from these folks with weak erections, crappy libido, sensation and climax problems, like can't come for 30 minutes straight, have to focus excessively. I apply what I already know is to be true regarding getting them in the sweet spot range of estradiol while maintaining high DHT. And then they can climax again. Their erections are great and the libido's back. So, again, it's a mix of all those things. Largely it's ideologic. Some of the people that are suggesting never manage estrogen are bodybuilders. So in the past, they have, their body with 200 milligrams of test, their estradiol goes to 25 because they just don't respond to it the same way that they might have used to because they've been abusing steroids for fucking ever. Or they've taken loads of aromatase inhibitors and now they make less estradiol. So they're on the side of, hey, you should probably have a little more. And maybe their body needs a little more via starving it like a fucking idiot for so long. So there's all kinds of things, but largely it's this ideologic dogma, which, in reality, it doesn't work. Like here's reality, there's truth, there's facts. That's the plane you want to operate on. And then there's ideas of stuff, ideas like that, your thyroid hormones being optimal are somehow going to manage your estradiol. It's a fucking idea. Not actually true. Maybe in the 2 to 5 picograms per milliliter range, but not the 10 to 15. How do you manage E2, lower the TRT dose or block? Well, you really have two ways on testosterone to manage estradiol. You have high dose AI or DHT derivative, Primabol and Masteron Proviron, or you have, low enough dose where you fall in range, but you're getting enough DHT, which sometimes you have to use cream for, or you use a hybrid protocol for. Those are the only two ways of dialing out TRT. That's it. Or like, of course, medium dose where estrogen falls in range, but that's the same thing as lower end modest dose. It's just that's where you're going to have to be, to keep E2 in range. I'm not a huge fan, if you don't have to, of using aromatase inhibitors these days. Some people have to. Some people, they just have to, especially, not all PFS people, but some guys that have taken finasteride and have really, really bad sexual dysfunction to the point where they've impaired their 5-alpha reductase enzyme so much that, on low doses like 14 milligrams a day of test enanthate, their test is like 411, 500, but their fucking estradiol is 50. Those people need AIs, man. And until they can fix what is probably impaired 5-alpha reductase enzyme function or quantity. When they can fix that, well, then they'll function normally. DHT is really the only thing capable of doing that, potentially proviron. But those guys need to be on AI. So, I mean, there's only two ways to do it. There's high doses with an AI, or there's modest doses where estrogen falls in range. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Thanks for the super chat, brother. I think it's got to be. It's got to be. When you see your team killing it, and then the Super Bowl against the Eagles must have been devastating. Because I mean, the way the Eagles played made the Chiefs look like not a good team that game, even though they are a good team. But this year it's got to be so bad, dude. Because they're, what are they, 6 and something, 6 and 10, 6 and 8? What do they end up, 6 and 9? Some terrible number. They just did not do good this year. So I'm sorry for that, man. My Eagles did great, but then we lost against the Niners in a really important game. So I feel your pain. And the Steelers, I mean, forget it. Just sucking. HCG daily or every other day injections. It really all depends, man. I mean, for me, I like daily injections because it's very predictable. And given the half-life of HCG, which is 1 to 2 days, it's like you get an even keel of everything. You don't have much fluctuations. And with HCG, you do want to keep it pretty steady state. Yeah. What would be test 1? Should ask for when getting tests. Not sure what you mean there, bro. So in my case, 50 milligrams zinc has seemed to increase climax sensation. Not 100%. Sure. If I should keep it, I don't want to cause issues long term. I don't have labs, but OS have been exquisite. OS. Well, I mean, if it's working for you, it's probably lowering estradiol enough, but not too much. And it's just getting you in the zone. And if you're able to stay in that zone, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's not that no one can take zinc on TRT. It's just that you got to be careful because it can crush estrogen. In the 50 milligram dose range is where I usually see that happen. But for you seem to be okay. I would say rigorously test that. Keep doing it. And if things go south, you've inhibited aromatase too much. Dar Fitness also says, Tomlin did great things in the beginning. Never had one losing season is impressive, but his time was up for sure. Go Bills. Yeah, I hope the Bills win. Honestly, it's going to be a great game. Can't wait to watch it. I know this argument has been made, and the argument is now it's like, everyone was like, all right, cool, Tomlin's out. And now like all the local Pittsburgh fucking gazettes and shit are writing articles like, Coach Mike, we love you. Like, and all this shit. And it's like, we need to face the truth. I live in this city, right? And I see the morose looks on Steelers fans' faces when they get disappointed over and over again. And it makes me want to fucking cry, man. Because all they want is to have a shot. This city is filled with a lot of bravado. There's nowhere in the United States that you can go to where you don't know about Pittsburgh. And, they want their team to win. But like when we're getting crushed in the fourth quarter of a playoff elimination game, and Tomlin is on the sidelines looking like a fucking idiot, go watch the game again and look at, he's over there going like he's just like, he doesn't know what to do. He's like a fucking child. It's not like he's determined, like, we got to change something. They changed nothing. They did worse in the second half. The guy talks like an idiot, secondly. Have you ever listened to him talk? He tries to sound eloquent, but that's the mark of someone who isn't highly intelligent trying to sound intelligent, and it's fucking obvious. And a coach is supposed to instill in a team the standards to be better. Like, for those individuals to just eat better, to sleep better, to work on their shit, and to be better. That's what a head coach is for. That's one of the main things a head coach is for. And he's just not been able to do that. They have been mediocre, and he's been okay with it. He's an older guy. He's had a good run. It's over. It's over. He is not capable of taking this team past a season. Who gives a shit? I commented this on the Pittsburgh Gazette, who was trying to talk him up. Who gives a fuck if they had winning seasons for 19 years straight or whatever it was? What's the marker of success in the NFL? AFC, NFC championship win or fucking Super Bowl. Just because you had a good season means nothing. A lot of teams had good seasons. It means fucking nothing. So I don't think we should cut him any slack at all. I think it's about time that he's gone. And I think he should have been gone a long time ago. And all he's done via his mediocrity has caused this city a lot of fucking pain. I live here, so I get to see it. I get to talk to people. I get to see their faces when we just lose every time. People go there with their terrible towels to the stadium on the north side, and everyone's just hoping. Maybe this year. Disappointed again. It's fucking Tomlin's fault. Mostly. Mahomes had no line to protect him. Yeah, I mean, I guess they shit the bed a little bit, but the Eagles were those boys were being high caliber on that game. Welcome, King. Have you tried any peptides? Any you recommend? Yeah. I mean, BPC 157 in the past, TB 500, both were useful for healing injuries. My girlfriend had run a cycle of BPC 157 recently for some hip pain, and it seemed to help initially and then kind of fall off. We didn't stick with it for long enough, though, and it did actually come for her with some side effects, so we kind of backed off for now, but those peptides still have a lot of legitimacy and do work really well for people. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, you could be dosing the sermorelins and the ipamorelins of the bunch and get some extra anabolism and growth hormone secretion and stuff like that. But, you gotta be careful taking that shit. You stop taking it, you miss a day or something, your blood sugar crashes. Your blood sugar can definitely modulate in a negative way in response to taking growth hormone peptides via their effects on insulin. So, something to research carefully. Otherwise, I'm into some nootropic peptides, or at least I was, but these days I'm not a huge peptide guy. As a type 2 diabetic with zero EQ and zero libido, is it possible to get any type of erection back? Yeah, you've got to get your androgens up, brother. Yes, yeah. I mean, yes, diabetes is probably contributing to this, but at the end of the day, I mean, you got to have high DHT and in-range estradiol. Be largely DHT dominant with estrogen being sufficient, and you'll get sexual function back. It might take some time. You might need to do some recovery of penile function. DHT would help that a lot via optimizing the vasculature of the penis, but penis pumping, things of that nature, Cialis or Viagra before bed to induce nocturnal erections to oxygenate the tissues and give them blood and stuff like that. Zakir, do you think using a DHT derivative as an AI is a practice years ahead of the current standard? And can you send DHT to the moon as long as E2 is in your range? So I'll answer your first question first. Do I think using a DHT derivative as an AI is a practice years ahead of the current standard? No, I think that, as most of the experts will concur, Vigorous Steve included, it is probably better to use a DHT derivative than an aromatase inhibitor to control estrogen if you have to do it. If you're one of those people that just has to do that, because they're going to be less harsh on your lipids, your tissue level estradiol, and they come with their own added benefits of anabolism, in the case of Primo. So I think it's definitely better to use than AIs, for sure. The answer to can you send DHT to the moon as long as E2 is in range is generally no. Generally no. Again, homeostatic ranges. We can't just... if you're too DHT dominant... Remember, DHT blocks estradiol at the gene level in terms of encoding the aromatase enzyme, but also at the gene expression level, at the receptor activation level. It kind of terminates the signal of the gene expression from estradiol. So it can act as an estrogen blocker to an extent. So with excessively superphysiologic DHT and estrogen at 30, like if you're at 300, 400, 500 nanograms per deciliter DHT, it's probably going to mute sexual function to a degree, although your erections will probably be stellar. But libido might not be great. This is just what I see. So, you're better off 60 to 90 in DHT and 20 to 35 estradiol. That's just where you're better off. Not to mention, if you're that high on DHT, you're going to have DHT-like side effects, like hair loss, acne. You might be excessively insensitive because you're just DHT dominant. Thoughts on microdosing anastrozole at 0.125 or 0.06 every 3 to 4 days? Well, it depends on the context of the rest of the protocol. I think these are good strategies if you can't tolerate higher doses. And considering the half-life of 2 days, but really the full terminal life is about 7 days of Arimidex, by the way. You're still going to have some estrogen reduction at day 4, day 5, and day 6, but estrogen will still be rising, but not at the level it would be otherwise if you had no AI in the mix that you had taken 3 days prior. So it's tricky to dial in that regard. Yeah, it's tricky to dial in that regard. But, if you have enough tests and those doses of anastrozole aren't just nuking the estrogen, then it's fine. It's fine. I don't recommend, though, using an AI every 3 to 4 days because it's still reducing estrogen at day 5 and day 6. So it's actually technically impossible to dial it in that way, usually. There are some freak anomalies who can do that. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I got to go do something real quick. I'll be right back and get to these questions. All right. Cat was yelping, but he's fine. I guess there's some animal outside probably. So that's the bottom line with that dose of Arimidex. Every time I lower the TRT dose to bring E2 down, I feel like shit. So this is a case in which you need to employ a hybrid protocol probably, or you need a fast-acting. This is probably long ester, right? Bet it's a long ester. Bet that's cypionate, right? Yeah, that's what happens sometimes on cypionate. You lower it too much, E2 falls in range, you don't have enough DHT, and you don't have enough testosterone, and you feel like fucking shit. Whereas if you just used an ester or a modality that converted disproportionately to DHT and therefore less to estradiol, but still give you a good peak in androgens, i.e. cream, you would feel great. So switch to cream, dude. Your problem is you're using a long ester. I almost guarantee that that's what this is. Water break. Yeah, I'm at 125 a day, exactly. Yeah, 3 on the forearm, 2 on the scrotum, 166 IU HCG every day, 40 milligrams cypionate every 7 days. Fucking perfect, literally perfect. Will I get benefits for 2.251? Wait, what? Injection? Brother, I don't understand what you're asking here. 251 milligrams per 2. Nah, brother, you phrased that. 0.25 twice a week, 50 milligrams twice a week is what I think you're asking. And yes, sure, you'll get some anabolism. Erections and libido will probably be good, but you might not have enough androgens to feel energized and stuff. But everybody's different. That's not a bad protocol right there. Daily HCG doses spikes E2 even if TRT dose is lowered. How much? And how do you know? Did you test it? Or are you having some effect that you're attributing to estrogen rising? You need to confirm that. But, what's the dose? What's the dose? Very rarely people have to go down to like 75 IU a day. You should be able to respond to about 100 IU a day and not over aromatize. Again, you might need to change the ester to use cream so that you make more DHT, less estradiol, and you can tolerate the HCG. You do need it. How come you recommend someone take cypionate either once a week or every other day instead of every other day or 2x a week in the context of a hybrid protocol? Because you're wanting to oscillate within a good window of estradiol, not go substantially over. And, you want a little bit of fluctuation. If you do this more frequently, you're not going to fluctuate a whole lot. And again, this concept of the central nervous system needs a little bit of contrast in order for libido to be on point. It's just true. It's just true. In some of these, hard cases and a lot of cases where I've got to employ hybrids, People need some degree of a stable baseline and then to peak and trough a bit. That's why. What milligram of Proviron works like an AI? Yeah, 75. 50 to 75. 100 milligrams is not necessarily overkill, but it's not healthy. I mean, there's where you're probably going to get some skewing of your lipids, and you'll definitely get some hair loss there. Emailed twice about missing purchase. I bought 2X Torque beginning of December, looking for updates. Where did you email? Email inquiries@livecortex.com. That is the customer service email. Lately we have been, in the last month for some reason, we've gotten orders on Torque, which had no shipping address. Website's looking fine in populating those fields, so you might not have entered a shipping address. Email inquiries@livecortex.com. Don't come on the live stream and talk about customer service shit. Darren, seems like the same people who say don't worry about E2 are also the ones sometimes pushing carnivore and the whole cholesterol doesn't matter. Again, it's the same thing. It's these wacky ideologies that on the surface sound like they make sense, but they also are designed to capture your attention and be like, oh, a contrarian. I want to be a contrarian. We don't have to worry about lipids. That's another part of this. It's like there's some allure in people saying never mind estrogen and stuff because it's contrarian. Why is it contrarian? Because the status quo of what we fucking already know is that you shouldn't have estrogen substantially over range. That's why it's contrarian, because they're going against what is already fucking proven, what we already know. The same thing happened with Atkins, with keto, with carnivore, which are, by the way, the same fucking thing. Different dress up. Oh, I'm contrarian. Check me out. I'm contrarian. Oh, contrarian is good. Now, look, there are things that, we have to be contrarian about that we're actually right about. Like the Ansel Keys study on sodium. I might be a different person because I've been a runner, most of my adult life or whatever, but I eat like 5 grams of sodium on most days, a little bit more. Blood pressure 111/75. So, salt makes my brain work better. Salt makes my cognition more functional. So there is some shit that, you have to be a little contrarian about. But when it comes to lipids or cholesterol or estradiol, no. You do not want to be contrarian about that. How many points of E2 would 25 milligrams? This assumes that there's a defined reduction of estradiol in the serum from a given dose of Proviron, and there isn't. You'll have to see. For some people, it's 2 to 5 picograms per milliliter. For some people, it's 7. For some people, it's none. Ever been in Naples, Florida? My girl and I just got back from a trip there. It was awesome. Remember you saying we went to Hollywood Beach? Yes, we went to Hollywood and then we went to Miami Beach. And Hollywood was okay. It was fine. Miami Beach was obviously better and more upscale and stuff, and we liked that. So it was cool, but I've never been to Naples. So, we'll think about it. Here in the coming month, in March, we're going to go to Florida. But I think this time we're going to the West End. The Gulf side of the peninsula. And, we'll be Clearwater-ish area. I honestly can't fucking wait. It's going to be 85 degrees and awesome every day. So I'm just really looking forward to it. Whereas, here in March, it's actually still going to be cold in Pittsburgh. So we are looking forward to that. If you didn't have access to cream, what modalities would you employ if DHT was too low on prop? Oh, I'd probably DHT itself. Yeah. Or, you might just be one of those people that needs to, if you can work it, inject 200 acipinate once a week and then take an AI the next day, or take Primobalin the next day, and then try to dial it in that way. Yeah. Yes, tested with 1,000 in IU-HCG. Okay, great. Is it worth using testosterone cream together with Anavar? Yeah, sure. Which one would you hybridize the cream with, cypionate or testosterone propionate? Which one? I use cypionate, but prop will work too. I've done that with a client. It was 4 pumps of the transcrotal cream, and was it 25 of prop every 3rd day, something like this, and that worked. But you have to figure out what works for you. Cream and Anavar together, totally. Anavar, just whatever you're doing, Anavar is just going to, reduce catabolism a lot and increase anabolism a lot. So it's pretty great, and it doesn't, mess with sexual function. Those of you that, the people that say that, if you're blocking the SHBG a lot, you're going to reduce sexual function. I just never see that bear out in reality. So Will's E2 is less than 10. Any tips on how to raise it to 20 to 25 naturally without taking any supplements? Do you have any tips? Are you natural? Sounds to me like you're natural. You're not on TRT. If you're on TRT, more HCG for sure. Higher amounts of test. Those would be my suggestions. Big Z. All right, 3 clicks, 100 milligrams of cream has trough levels too low. Yeah, that would be the case. Using 25 Proviron a day now, honestly thinking I'm going to need a hybrid to fix this shit. Okay. The trough is too low, meaning you feel crappy or you've looked at the bloods and they're too low. The important thing is sexual function okay? You can trough pretty low. If sexual function's okay, like good, then you're good. If you feel like shit, then yes, that's a problem. You're just going to have to dial in otherwise. But on this 3 clicks, if sexual function's not great and your numbers are, you never go above an estradiol, your numbers are generally pretty low, then yeah, adding 20 to 40 milligrams of cypionate once every 5 to 7 days will probably fix that problem for you, man. That's what I would do if I were you. Yeah, sometimes, hybrids are just necessary for people that are having a hell of a time dialing in on one singular modality of test. You just got to bring a hybrid in there to do the rest of the legwork. So if I were you, yeah, start with 20 to 40 milligrams of cypionate. Yeah, measure the bloods like day 3, day 4, so you can see how high estrogen is going, and see how you fare there, man. The fact that you're using Proviron is probably not helping you at this point too, because it might be just lowering estrogen. So in between 3 and 4 clicks though, you can't actually be, is what you're saying. So yeah, you need a hybrid in that case. If this is actually true, that 4 clicks brings the E2 too high and therefore sexual function suffers, and 3 clicks, your trough levels of androgens are too low, then you need to do a hybrid in between, whether prop, cypionate, or anything at low doses. I think you'll find your good sweet spot there. Why are you combining cream and injectable, and what ester are you using? I mean, I've explained this, but I am combining cream and an injectable because just the 5 pumps of cream with HCG, I'm in a good place. Libido's good, erections are good, sensations good, climaxes are good, but it isn't perfect. It isn't great. It isn't like great, but because it's all, even though it fluctuates throughout the day, my body kind of gets used to it. Again, it's this whole central nervous system needs contrast idea, which seems to bear out in reality. Then if I throw in an infusion of 40 milligrams of cypionate, the sexual function just gets a noticeable step better to where it's like fucking phenomenal for most of the duration of the 7-day period. And I enjoy a little bit extra anabolism for a few days or something after. I can see it in the gym. I like the pumps. And I want to inject as much testosterone as I can get away with too. Protein shake, Nocturnals. Are you currently using zinc? No. Natural. How about any lifestyle changes to raise it? Okay, so if you're natural, there's really no way to do it, man. I mean, first of all, where is your testosterone? Because if test is sitting at 400, 300, and you might have E2 a little too low, although some people it's still in range, in a good range at 20 or something, 25. Yeah, that's you got to look at where test is, dude. But no, if your E2 is at 10 and you're natural, you don't want to raise E2. Yeah, you might just fuck up the ratio of DHT to estradiol in that case. I bet the DHT is already pretty low. So I would go on TRT, honestly, so that you can control the variables. I'm not just, irresponsibly going, everyone should just go on TRT because that's what I like to talk about. I think if you got too low estradiol, you definitely want to go and try to control everything. Your test is 600 to 700. You could maybe get away with, I don't know any things you can take besides some anabolic steroids that might raise estradiol. D-ball specifically. If you want to experiment with getting some estradiol valerate from the underground and just injecting a very, very microdose of it, then that would be your only option, man. There ain't nothing natural you can do to increase it. Yeah. Test E in MCT is a hack for Matthew. Never use cypionate. No doubt the carryover matters to me. MCT test E peaks fast and troughs way quicker. Bolus and infrequent. Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, it does. Yeah, to an extent. Sure. That's good. Yeah, most of the underground stuff comes in MCT oil, which I really like. I like that, and I just feel better about it, and it does seem to peak a little quicker and get out of the system a little sooner, rather than this cottonseed oil stuff that most of the clinics have. Have you ever drawn 2 different esters in the same syringe? Test being no, I've never done that. Nope. I don't really. Yeah, wouldn't see a need for that. I mean, if you're doing a hybrid, okay, like I understand, but Defy Medical and a few other clinics do have a effective hybrid product. It's like 160 milligrams per milliliter of cypionate, 40 milligrams per milliliter of prop, and therefore you have 2 esters in 1 syringe. So I suppose you could do it, but no, I've never done that before. Never done it before. Never done it, brother. I have never done it before. Brother. Hey, brother. Boys, the most popular coaching package so far, hands down, has been the TRT Sexual Function Protocol Blueprint. It's a single session consult, 30-minute call. A document is generated with a TRT protocol tracker, 3 to 5 action routes, meaning adjustments to dial you in terms of sexual function. It is a perfect in-between of coaching for those that don't want long coaching cycles and their problems are rather fixable rather quickly, just need the right protocols. Go book that. Those that have sexual dysfunction that is pretty stubborn and will need adjustments, the 3-month intensive is also the second popular coaching program that we have, because you get to work with me over the course of 3 months on an ongoing basis, and I'm adjusting your protocol to perfection. For the really advanced, super stubborn stuff, 6 months is the amount of time that we're going to need, because we might need to try different esters. We might need to really pull out the tools in the toolbox and have some Proviron, some Masteron, a good degree of test, the right dose of HEG, in some of those cases, using HMG. There's a lot of stuff that we do for the really advanced shit to get them functional again. Not everybody has to do that, but keep that in mind. If you go on the homepage, all of our products, including a recent launch of a combo. So now you can get Sourceless and the Testosterone Cream course as a bundle right here, right on the right, and cheaper than the price of like buying them individually. So we just created that. Mastering Testosterone Cypionate is a video course explaining how to dial in libido and erections on cypionate, which is hard to do, but I built a course showing you how I do it. Mastering Testosterone Cream, it's basically the rule book for using cream, how to actually dial it in to the point where you have great libido and erections on cream. You can get that at livecortex.com. Of course, source list. I think that cover is self-explanatory. Go get that. And if you need to book me on coaching, get it done, brothers. livecortex.com. Again, I haven't been doing content this week because I am working on completing the most comprehensive digital product on libido and erections on TRT, the Sexual Function Playbook for men on testosterone replacement therapy, riddled with protocols, decision trees, diagrams on how to dial in, logic that I use to dial people that are paying us a lot of money that we are on the hook for to restore their sexual function. These are the diagrams that I use. Protocols galore, logic explaining the protocols. This is going to be the most comprehensive product we have ever launched, and it'll be launching in about 2 weeks. So look out for it, livecortex.com. Otherwise, boys, I'm going to end the stream. Great fucking questions. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I've got to get going, get to the gym, get to my girl's house to watch the game. I love you guys. Kick ass, rock on. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Even though I will be working on the sexual function, the new sexual function playbook for TRT, I will be doing content this week. So look forward to that. I'll see you guys then. Kick ass, rock on. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace. Later.